Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Dina. Michael Cohen is still testifying at the Trump criminal trial. He was on cross-exam all day. The cross-examination did not complete today. It will keep going until Monday. Trump's lawyers said that they expect to be done with the cross-exam of Cohen on Monday morning. And we could have closing arguments, Dina, as soon as Tuesday. By Tuesday afternoon, it's possible the jury will get this case and the jury will be instructed, and we could have a verdict as early as next week. So we are moving pretty expeditiously in this criminal trial. I know many people thought it may have went until the end of June. Early next week, we'll hear whether or not Donald Trump will be testifying. I don't think he's going to be testifying, but there will be a declarative ask of Trump whether or not he will be testifying. I think he will be informed of his constitutional right to do so by Justice Merchan. I think we're all fairly confident that Trump is going to decline and invoke his Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination and not testify, which he has an absolute constitutional right to do. And if he does that, the jury can't be told, look, the fact that he's not testifying shows that he's guilty. You can't do that in a criminal case. In a civil case, you can do that. In a criminal case, you can't do that. Look, Dina, all in all today, I thought Cohen handled himself well on cross-examination. There were multiple observers in the courtroom, reporters who reflected that. We had multiple sources in the courtroom, people who work for our network who were there as well. People telling me on background what they observed. They said that Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, was very disjointed. He was slow to make his points, that Cohen was calm, making eye contact with the jury the entire time. You know, there was this one moment about a phone call that Cohen had on like October 24th with Donald Trump's bodyguard, Keith Schiller, and Cohen discussed how that could have been about kind of multiple topics, Stormy, as well as this like 14-year-old kid who was harassing him as well. And there were text messages also talking about this like 14-year-old kid who was harassing Cohen and the campaign. Ultimately, the prosecution kind of objected to it as Todd Blanche, Trump's lawyer, started like just yelling at Cohen. The objections were sustained by Justice Merchan. And, you know, this was supposed to be some big moment. You know, it was very odd. You know, Ari Melber from MSNBC used this term about this thing, about that interaction, and said it was a bloodbath. That was the term that like Ari Melber had used, and I saw it used on then used on CNN. Look, people who watch this show know that Ari Melber has some personal animosity towards Michael Cohen. Melber platformed Michael Avenatti and had Michael Avenatti go on the show to talk crap about Cohen. Cohen then talked crap about Melber for doing that, saying, how are you having Avenatti on your show? And so they went back and forth kind of there, you know, and it does seem that Melber harbors this kind of personal animosity towards Michael Cohen because, look, if you want to say, did the defense score a point here or there and say, you know, oh, look, perhaps on direct exam, it could have been brought up that Cohen was discussing Stormy and maybe this other topic as well, like you can do in a conversation, even if it's a short conversation that lasts under 2 minutes. You can discuss two topics in a conversation, and perhaps on direct that should have been brought out. So you can say, okay, I see how the defense gets a point right there. But to say like that moment, use the term bloodbath, and then all of the other overwhelming evidence against Donald Trump thus far, you never hear the media talking about any of that stuff. And by the way, you don't hear the media talking about what happened, which frankly was a bloodbath against our Constitution this morning, as you had MAGA Republican members of Congress show up and parade themselves. Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, 11 others today who were there, who were all saying that that they're there for Donald Trump and they were violating the gag order on his behalf. Here's a list of about a dozen MAGA Republican Congress members who showed up to engage in witness intimidation. And then you had Matt Gaetz post, "I'm here, stand back, stand by, I'm with you, Donald Trump," quoting the Proud Boys. I don't see the outrage there from Ari Melber. I don't see the outrage there from CNN and Anderson Cooper, but where Michael Cohen calmly performed very well on the witness stand, and the cross exam overall was pretty bad, and there was just one moment, and the media then says that's a what are they even talking about? In any event, Dina, tell us what you thought of today's proceedings. I've been talking a lot with Karen. I'm worked up.
I love hearing you talk, Ben. I just feel like, the cable news takeaway, they were desperate, I think, for a gotcha moment against Michael Cohen. They were kind of hyping it up themselves. They're all about ratings. And so anything, I just felt like they just grabbed onto, because I do think the takeaway was, at its worst, this phone call was about two things. I mean, if anybody has seen Michael Cohen talk or done his TikToks, he can say a lot in 2 minutes. 2 minutes is quite a lot. I recap the trial every day in 1 minute and 30 seconds. So certainly you can have more than one conversation. But even more importantly, talking about the facts, right? And talking about what matters here is the facts and the transcripts. I went back and looked at the opening statement transcript. How much did they rely, right, on that one phone call? And the fact is, the prosecutor talks about quite a few times that Michael Cohen was speaking with Donald Trump about the payment. They didn't say there was this one phone call where he talks about it. So I don't think this is going to be hard for the prosecution to overcome. And I still keep on saying the tape, because the jury has already heard twice, and who knows, it might get replayed again in closing, but they've already heard twice Donald Trump's own words talking about the payment to Karen McDougal, the $150,000 payment, and Michael Cohen talking about how the plan was to structure the payment. The payment to Stormy Daniels is so similar. It's similar in facts. It's similar in pattern. That's why it got introduced, to have pattern evidence to help prove the intent for this Stormy Daniels crime. That's exactly how the jury is going to be instructed to look at that tape. And then also we heard from David Pecker, and, we heard from everybody. We heard from so many witnesses about the many conversations of the hush money payments. So basically what the defense did today was try to say that one of the phone calls, one of the conversations between Michael Cohen and Donald Trump may have also had to do with this 14-year-old harassment. If they didn't have the recording, maybe that would be stronger, but that is certainly not, to me, enough when you have a recording like Donald Trump and you have other witnesses like David Pecker, who's clearly talking about the scheme that they had to do. So I don't think this was anything close to what they needed to do. I mean, and cross-examination. I mean, Ben, as a practicing lawyer, cross-examination is supposed to score some points, right? I mean, I don't think I have ever seen a witness on the stand that never has any points scored against him. That's just impossible. That's why you have redirect. That's why they're going to have an hour. And the fact of the matter is that one phone call is not the sum of the prosecution's case.
Exactly. That's the point of cross-exam. And I think it's fair to say, and look, I'll say it on Political Beatdown. I want to be objective. Could you say that there was a tiny point that was scored, that a conversation can be about multiple topics, and on direct it seemed that it was just about one topic, but it actually could have been about two topics? And then there's all the other evidence corroborating it around that time that it would be about the other topic, which they will go over it again on redirect of. But okay, so it's a point. Why is the media using these terms like that? And because when you use the term like bloodbath, you assume that then means that must have been fatal, and to the whole case. And It couldn't be further from that when you actually break it down. Here is what went down, because let's just go to the transcript about what went down. Ready? So moments later, Cohen texted Schiller, Trump's bodyguard, the number of the person who had been placing these harassing phone calls around this time period, October 24th. So Blanche, Trump's lawyer, then pressed Cohen about his testimony that the call was with Trump about Daniels and not with Schiller about harassing phone calls that Cohen and the campaign were receiving. Quote, "That was a lie," Blanche said to Cohen, his voice rising and his tone sharp. And then Cohen's response was, "Part of it was the 14-year-old, but I know that Keith Schiller, Trump's bodyguard, was with Mr. Trump at the time, and it was more than just this," he said, referring to the calls. And then this is Trump's lawyer. "You had enough time in 1 minute and 36 seconds to update Mr. Schiller about all the harassing phone calls and the update on Stormy Daniels?" Blanche asked, growing impatient. Cohen replies calmly that he, quote, "always ran everything by the boss immediately. And in this case, it could have been just saying, everything's been taken care of. It's going to be resolved." At that, Todd Blanche, Trump's lawyer, lost his cool. Quote, "That was a lie. That was a lie," he said, his voice now rising to a shriek. "You can admit it." And then Cohen says, "No, sir, I can't," Cohen said, repeating that in addition to the conversation with Schiller about the calls, quote, "I believe that I also spoke to Mr. Trump and told him everything regarding Stormy Daniels was being worked on and it's going to be resolved." And then Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, says, "We are not asking for your belief," Blanche said angrily. "This jury doesn't want to hear what you think happened." Then there was an objection by the prosecution. The objection was sustained. So that last question was stricken, and then they took a break. That's the moment. That's it. There's nothing else that they were referring to. So again, Dina, when I read what went down, I want to say, so that's what Ari Melber was saying, was this, using the term bloodbath moment, that Cohen may have clarified that there was more to the conversation than just one topic from a phone call that was made in 2016. Like, huh? And then here's the thing too, Dina, if the media is going to use terms like that to refer to Cohen, then use those terms when there actually is overwhelming evidence every other day in trial about Donald Trump. And they don't. They soften that language and act like, well, I don't really know, and Trump looks strong today. You know, they say all of these things. I mean, take a look at this, Dina. Moments ago, as Donald Trump was exiting the court, he admits that he had an NDA, and Trump says it was an illegal NDA. He said illegal. I think he meant legal, but Trump said, "I have a legal NDA with Stormy." Here, play this clip.
That was from Jonathan Turley. Andrew McCarthy. "NDAs are legal in common, yet Bragg alleges Trump's was illegal. I have the only illegal NDA."
And so you're not going to hear the media talk about that moment. You know, we'll talk about it here. But Dina, as I read this, show me the data where that was this moment. You know, I don't get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to the point about the NDA, the jury got as evidence Trump's tweet where he talks about it being a reimbursement, you know, that Cohen has this, he was invoiced, but it was a reimbursement for the NDA. You know, so in Trump's own words, through this tweet, he's talking about the reimbursement. He's talking about the NDA. So there's just so much, like you said, other evidence, I think. And I do think, and I kind of said this on Tuesday's show, that I think the problem is that people are being too nuanced about how strong this case is, and the country isn't going to be prepared. Because when you have tweets like that being introduced and recordings being introduced, so much evidence being introduced on this case, I think this case is stronger than the legal analysts are talking about on the networks. And so when you have this one cross question that maybe muddies the water about there being two topics instead of one topic, which I don't think discounts all the evidence that came forward and you're calling it a bloodbath, you're really kind of, I think, giving the country the wrong impression about how strong this case is. And hasn't the media done this all along, diminished Trump's power and for whatever reason been willing to put him on the air, even though he's lying, and, over and over and over again. And I think they're doing that in this trial. To me, like I said, I watch live trials all the time. That is what I do for a living. And if it's a typical trial like this, you would come out every day and say, this is huge, strong evidence. You don't get, honestly, as much evidence of the defendant's own words in a trial. It's really unusual, but because Trump likes to talk, the jury has heard a lot of really damaging evidence from him directly.
I want to talk about that when we come back from our break. Exactly. You watch hundreds of these trials every single year, and the amount of evidence that you see here against Trump is overwhelming. You don't see, and in all those other cases where the jury finds beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendants are guilty, you don't have the tweets, you don't have the posts, you don't have the statements of them saying that they're doing it. And there are convictions in those cases, and those cases are covered by the media, actually through a pretty objective lens. But when it comes to a Trump case, the media, the corporate media, throws it all out. They bend backwards to try to help Donald Trump. You got Fox and right-wing kind of propaganda media, which is just like Kim Jong-un style at this point. But then you've got corporate media, even like on an MSNBC, which Trump calls MSDNC, but you've got someone like Ari Melber, who's got some personal beef with Michael Cohen, who's out there calling that moment that we just read in those terms, which is just belied by the actual data. Anyway, so when we get back, I want to talk to you more about that. And I want to talk about this stunt by these MAGA Republicans, Congress members. It's supposed to be a co-equal branch of government. Trump dresses them up to look like him, and they show up there and it's the ultimate bootlicking. And you see right there the sign behind Matt Gaetz. This is just humiliating for our nation. And Matt Gaetz saying, stand back and stand by. Horrible, horrible stuff. We'll be right back after this quick break. As you know, I'm a professor, podcaster, co-founder of a media network. We're doing a lot. Living a more heart-healthy life fuels everything I do and everything you do. Introducing 3-in-1 blood pressure support plus COQ10 from Super Beats Heart Chews Advanced. Paired with a healthy lifestyle, the grapeseed extract in Super Beats is clinically shown to be nearly 2 times more effective at promoting normal blood pressure than a healthy lifestyle alone. New Super Beats Heart Chews Advanced supports healthy COQ10 level, an important nutrient for heart health. Super Beats Heart Chews are incredibly delicious and so much better than any alternative supplements out there. I take my Super Beats Heart Chews each morning, and it's really kickstarted my morning routine. After taking my Super Beats Heart Chews, I feel like I have more energy and am ready to take on the day. COQ10 generates 95% of the cellular energy your heart needs, but it can decline with age, stress, and statin use. Super Beats Heart Chews Advanced is effective and contains clinically researched ingredients from Super Beats, the #1 doctor, pharmacist, and cardiologist recommended beet brand for cardiovascular health support. Find out how you can get a free 30-day supply on bundles of new Super Beats Heart Chews Advanced and save 15% for a limited time only by going to superbeatsradio.com and use the promo code BEAT. That's super, SUPER, BEETS radio.com. Use the promo code BEAT. That's superbeats, BEETS radio.com. And then use the promo code BEAT.
Fellas, blink if you haven't purchased the Father's Day gift yet. Yeah, we thought so. Today's episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Our friends at Manscaped have crafted the total package for his special day. Whether it's for the boys downstairs, beard, or even the best pair of underwear out there, Manscaped has all the bases covered. Head over to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping with code MIDAS. From daddy to zaddy, trust Manscaped. You know that beard trimmer that your dad's been using since you were in grade school? Yeah, it probably needs upgrading. Introducing the Beard Hedger Pro Kit, the complete beard maintenance kit for all the bearded kings. This all-in-one kit comes with a beard hedger, Manscaped's most advanced beard trimmer, as well as shampoo, conditioner, oil, and balm for his beard. It also comes with a brush, comb, and scissors so he could style his beard and mustache like the true gentleman he is. And no beard kit would be complete without Manscaped's handyman face shaver. For that smooth finish we know he loves, this bad boy is all he needs. Compact enough to fit in any travel case, make sure he takes this on his next trip. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is designed with fathers in mind, featuring the signature Lawnmower 5.0. This Father's Day is also the perfect time for your old man to stop stealing his wife's nail clippers and finally have a kit on his own that will last him a lifetime. The Shears 3.0 is the 5-piece precision man's nail grooming kit that any father needs to stay on top of his self-care, with professional-grade stainless steel tools, sized and styled for the task at hand. That set of underwear he got for Christmas a decade ago definitely needs upgrading, and what better way than with Manscaped's Boxers 2.0. The Boxers 2.0 were designed with a simple mission: to make the most comfortable boxers a man could buy. It starts with the Jewel Pouch, a dedicated space that cradles your stones in place with a perforated performance fabric for extra breathability. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code BEAT at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code BEAT at manscaped.com. Never forget where you came from, if you know what I mean. Happy Father's Day from Manscaped.
Well, take a look at those ads right there. We love Super Beats and Brett doing that Manscaped read. You know, we always love Michael Cohen's ad reads. People love Cohen's ad reads, but of course, while he's testifying, we're not going to have him cut ad reads. You know, it's funny, Dina. Jordy runs our kind of ad department, my younger brother, Jordy. And he's like, did Cohen, like, I don't know how to do the Jordy voice. He goes, I won't make fun of my little brother. He goes, but did Cohen do the ad reads? I go, I think Cohen's a little busy this week. I think we will, I'll do the ad reads. We'll let Brett do the ad reads this week, but don't worry, you'll get your Cohen ad reads next week. But Dina, you watch hundreds of trials every year where the defendant doesn't tweet about it or give speeches about it. And there is this overwhelming amount of evidence right now. And if the media was reporting on this, you know, objectively, I think they would at least point out the powerful nature of that evidence. And here's the thing that I want to say. No one knows what a jury's going to do, right? You don't know if you're going to have a single juror or 2 or 3 jurors that are kind of holding out. And if you're going to have, you know, issues there, you don't know. I don't know. But I can talk about the data, about the amount of evidence that's been put on by the prosecution. And to your point, the prosecution wasn't like, this is the key phone call that you all need to focus on. This 1 minute and 36 seconds. This is it. This is the moment. There's a bunch of text messages and phone calls and tweets and videos and posts and corroborating testimony and all of this around this time period. So talk about that, Dina, though, as just someone who is a legal analyst who observes these cases, the disparity, I think, or just how the media right now is just covering this so oddly.
I mean, most cases, there is always a he said, she said component, right? Here it's maybe he said, That's typical. I mean, it's really unusual to have a tape. That's why I keep on talking about the tapes, to have a tape where Donald Trump is talking about the hush money payment to Karen McDougal, and he's able to bring that in. The judge is allowing it to bring it in because it is so close to the Stormy Daniels payment. And that kind of evidence you don't see in a typical trial. Most typical trials that have to do with, he said, you're forced to really just have these conversations between it's like given this not just a he said, but this he said with the corroborating testimony. And, one thing too, that I think that you kind of alluded to before about how the defense attorney ended with this anger, right? He was so upset at the end, and his questions kept on getting sustained. The judge didn't allow it because they were really just like statements rather than questions, and these angry statements. I don't know what you think about this, Ben, but to me, I thought that was like strategically like a really bad move by the defense, because if I think I have just scored like the winning answer from my witness, like I have just blown open my case, I would be happy with their answer. I would have been kind of smug and been like, well, thank you, nothing more, Michael Cohen. But instead, he gets angry at Michael Cohen, which gives the impression to the jury that he didn't get what he wanted out of Michael Cohen, that he didn't actually get that bloodbath moment that Ari says he wanted. Because why be angry about it? Why be angry if you just elicited the one, answer that would give you, an acquittal from your defense? So to me, when he ends in that anger from the jury, one, it makes it look personal, because he started off with a Michael Cohen with a question about him as a lawyer, right? So he starts out the cross-examination with this personal question about himself, and then he ends the cross this week angry at Michael Cohen. And that like bookmark shows how personal it is for the lawyer. And to me, it's ironic because the lawyer is trying to say this is so personal to Michael Cohen, but Michael Cohen is the one who's cool and collected, and it's the lawyer who's making it personal. That's not a good look for the jury. He doesn't want to make it seem as if Donald Trump is, harassing Michael Cohen because Michael Cohen isn't doing what he wants to do, and it's actually personal for his client. Because, as you know, as a lawyer, how you act as an attorney, the jury usually attributes that to your client. So the lawyer turning it personal and then getting angry at the end, I think kind of backfired in terms of them trying to make it seem that Michael Cohen was the one that was turning this personal.
Let's assume, for the sake of argument, though, that Cohen went rogue. I think that's what they're trying to imply. He's making it up. He went absolutely rogue. Okay. Why would Donald Trump then reimburse him? Why would Donald Trump then say that he was a signatory to the NDA? Wouldn't the next logical move that would happen if Cohen was making all of this up is Donald Trump would be presented with some invoices, and Trump would say, what the heck is this? We never had this conversation. What? You're paying Stormy? Who's Stormy? A porn star? What? What is this? Or you think Trump would go, so you want me to do an ND? I've never heard this before, because apparently we never had this conversation. Yeah. 130,000 to the porn star. Okay, I don't know who she is. Never had sex with her. Here you go, Michael. I'm going to reimburse you for it. Huh? Is that what you have to then take it, right, Dina, to the next logical step, because that's what they would want the jury to believe, that, okay, so none of the calls happened. Then Cohen gave Trump checks for reimbursement, or Alan Weisselberg did, and Trump's own team. There was other eyes on this, right? Trump's CFO, Trump's controller, and Trump's like, what they think we're all that stupid? I'm going to give $130,000 to a random porn star because I've never had conversations about this, right? To me, when you have people on like CNN and MSNBC saying that this was a moment, okay, well then go to the next logical step, because then you're just basically treating the jury like they're idiots. Am I right?
No, absolutely. And again, with that tweet where he, after the fact, is like, oh, this is like a reimbursement. This is invoice for an NDA. Like, to your point, he never says that I didn't do this. He's just trying to like make it legal in his mind. Like, oh, it was just this reimbursement, for this NDA. And interestingly, even outside the courtroom, he still actually doesn't really say that he didn't know anything about it. We heard the other day where he's like, oh, just a payment to a lawyer, right? As if because you have a lawyer involved, everything is legal. But he still really doesn't say that I had nothing to do about it. He always tries to say it's either legal because it's an NDA or it's legal because he did it through a lawyer. But he even gave Michael Cohen a bonus that year, right? So that's why this case is so strong, because there are so many people who testified about this scheme, right? We have Howard afterwards saying, like, what after Trump has won in 2016, like, what have we done? Because what they have done is catch and kill stories to help him win an election. You have Trump, tweeting and recording so clearly okay with the deal. And like you said, he pays him afterwards. He pays them and he even gives them a bonus afterwards. And then he tweets afterwards too that this wasn't a reimbursement for the NDA. And he's outside the courthouse, really just trying to justify it, but not saying that he had nothing to do with it. And that is really the shame of how it's not being covered, that it's not being covered, how strong the case is, how much Trump himself kind of admits to it outside the courthouse, even to this day, like today, your point. He just talks about how it's an NDA. He never actually says, I had nothing to do with this.
And there's court filings where Trump talks about how this was a reimbursement to Cohen. And that's why he's the signatory on the NDA, because Trump tried to enforce the NDA in his litigation with Stormy. Like, it's some very basic, obvious facts, right? I mean, Trump and Cohen were shoulder to shoulder before Cohen was raided by the FBI. And there are like lots of documents out there corroborating that there was a conversation and multiple conversations that ultimately took place. And ultimately Donald Trump's signature. Look, if you were to say Trump's signature is not on any of these checks and he had no clue and it was just Weisselberg who signed off, and Trump's signature is on these checks. Trump's voice is on the audio. Trump's words are on the tweets. Trump's statements are in the speech. Trump saying this was a reimbursement are in the legal documents. It is there. And so on closing, if I'm the prosecution, I'm just saying it is there. And what the defense has tried to say to you is offend your intelligence and say that none of this has happened. None of it happened. Basically, according to the defense, Donald Trump was presented with a check to pay a porn star who he barely knew. And he just said, yeah, out of the charitable view towards Stormy, I'm going to pay you, Cohen, $130,000 to pay her. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's what the jury would have to believe if that moment was this aha, Perry Mason. It's the opposite of a Perry Mason moment. It's anyway. Finally, Dina, let me ask you this, though. I thought the point that you made on the last beatdown we hosted together about the message that this is sending to the jurors, where you have these MAGA Republican Congress members showing up, all kind of dressed in their Trumpy uniforms and trying to, I guess, intimidate people in the court, intimidate witnesses, that it kind of undermines the central theme. Well, there's no theme. It undermines whatever defense they're trying to put on when you don't see Melania there or any of Trump's other kids other than Eric, who showed up for a few days so far. And you see all of these MAGA Republican Congress members. It just also, look, Congress is supposed to be a co-equal branch of government, although I think Lauren Boebert thinks that Congress has multiple branches of government. I don't think she ever took a government class, but it's supposed to be a co-equal branch. Even if you have an executive who's from your party in power, you're supposed to be a check on that. If you're in Congress, right? You're supposed to be a check on the power of the executive. So to see these MAGA Republicans just show up like this and just behave like weirdo cult members, I don't care what political party you're from, you should look at this and say, wow, this is just bringing us so much shame as Americans. This is humiliating. This is degrading. How are these people acting like this? I'll give you the last word on that, Dina.
I mean, absolutely. It goes against his defense that he's a family guy. But also there was testimony to the jury, that Michael Cohen talks about how after the raid, President Trump, when he was president at the time, says, basically, I'm going to use my presidential power to make this go away. Like, you don't worry about it. I'm going to have my attorney general take care of this. The jury heard that. And then they see the stream of the GOP politicians coming into this case. One, it looks bad because it makes him look not like a family guy because it's political. But also, if there are any jurors on that case who care about our democracy, that was a really disturbing statement. The fact that Trump was willing to use that presidential power. And then the politicians are coming in, which shows that he's kind of like still willing to abuse their power. All those politicians are abusing their power. They did not get elected to show up in a criminal case. They got elected to serve their people who do not live in that area. So they are abusing their stature and their power in that case. And that is also a message that's going to a jury. Trump is willing to abuse their power. And if he's not checked in this case, if he's not held to account, who is going to hold him to account? All of his colleagues are willing to abuse their power. So this you're feeding into this idea that this case becomes a political abuse, political power case. If I were on that jury, I would be bothered about that point. And I can imagine there are a few who are really bothered about that comment. And you know who else is watching this case? The Supreme Court. And you know how you and I watched the live analysis of the immunity case, and Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said, we shouldn't be worried about chilling, the next president too much. We should be worried about not chilling them enough. And when you see all these GOP people, including the Speaker of the House, who's number 3 in the country, show up in a way that can be seen as jury intimidation and certainly being seen as trying to bolster, somebody running for office, I would think if I were her, the justice, I would go back to my colleagues who were on the fence about this immunity thing and say, this is why we need to make sure that Donald Trump does not have immunity, because look is what is happening. And this is just the beginning. So I think that audience, the Supreme Court, I think they're watching. And I think that takeaway of having all those representatives there shows how dangerous Trump is to this country if we don't hold him to account for his actions.
Dina, thank you for co-hosting this political beatdown. I want to figure out, we got to have a Dina show on the Midas Touch Network. You and I have privately discussed it. We got to have a Dina emoji, and we got to have a Dina show, whether it's a Ben and Dina show. I do a lot of shows, but I really want to do a Dina and Ben. It would be Dina and Ben, not Ben and Dina.
You guys love it, Ben. Let's do it.
It would definitely be Dina and Ben if and when we do it, but we will be doing it. I just got to. I'm getting married this weekend. I got a lot going on, and then after the trial, you and I we're going to do a Dina Ben show, or definitely a Dina show. We'll figure it all out. I know the Midas Mighty love you, and I see in the comments how excited they are every time you're co-hosting. And I want to give a shout out to Michael Cohen, who's doing and I know he's probably not watching this at all right now, but I'm sending it to the future Michael Cohen when he does watch in the future. We're really proud of you. We know that you are confidently and calmly going through the facts. We know that Trump's lawyers are trying to provoke you. We know that corporate media is trying to provoke you. Corporate media is jealous of the platform that you have, where you can bring your message directly to the people. And we're proud of you here, though, at the Midas Touch Network for doing what Trump's afraid to do. Trump's a coward. Trump's not going to take the stand. Cohen has consistently taken the stand, subjected himself to cross-examination, answered the questions truthfully. He recognizes the mistakes he's made in the past. And as you have Donald Trump sitting there like a complete and total coward that he is, and Cohen up there taking the stand, I think that it's an important distinction. So Dina, thank you. Dina and Ben show coming soon. Thanks everybody for watching. Patreon.com/political beatdown. great place to go. Patreon.com/political beatdown. And tonight at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, make sure you tune in for the Brother Show, the Midas Touch podcast with me and my brothers. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks, Dina, as always. That's Political Beatdown for today. See you next week.